Good evening again, everyone. We're about to get started with our evening. So again, we want to welcome you to Representative Fabian Nelson, Mississippi House District 66, state and district address. And so first, we're going to call all of the older women and men, if there are any, from the town of Terry to come forward and welcome the guests to your table. Any older women, older men, town of Terry?
Don't make me call your name. I know y'all now. You too? Come on up here.
I want to say good evening to everyone. I am Alderwoman Connie Taylor, and I just would like to thank each one of you for coming out to hear what Representative Nelson have to say. I want to say welcome to the town of Terry, if you're not from Terry, but if you are from Terry, you know that it's a good place to live. So I just want to tell you, thank you so much for coming.
And I am Alderwoman Bud Holly as this week, the 30th. So I'll be outgoing Alderwoman. But like I told him, it's just a break because I will still be at City Hall bothering them and everything. So everybody got my phone number, but it's been a pleasure being on the board of Alder for the town of Terry. So as Alderwoman Connie said, Terry is a nice place to live. Born and raised, love it, we'll go anywhere. Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Alderwoman Lakeisha Kendrick, and thank you all for your support. This will be my first time to serve. Born and raised in Terry. Once again, Terry is a great place to live.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alderwoman Jacqueline Mitchell. About to serve my second term. I am very excited for the growth and the leadership that we have here in Terry, Mississippi, and we are planning to move this town forward. Thank you all for coming. Good evening. I'm newly elected to Alderwoman Shamika Gibson Williams. I'm out from Terry. I was born and raised right around the corner. And I'm glad y'all took time to come out to hear a word from Representative Fabian Nelson. So welcome once again.
And this is my fourth term.
Okay, so thank you, all the women from Terry, for welcoming us to your town. Next, we'll ask the councilman, alderwoman from Byron, and the mayor. Will they come and welcome everyone, and we'll go in that order.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sandra Terry Allen, Alderwoman at large, Byron, Mississippi, and I'm going into my second term. And it's great seeing you all this evening, and I'm excited to hear what Representative Nelson has for us today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Irma Johnson. I'm Alderwoman in Byron, Ward 1, with number 1 ward.
Okay, I'm really glad I got Byron. Been on 1 years, and I'm excited. I like that city. I always like that city.
Okay,
So we do have representatives from Supervisor Bobcat Gannon's office, so she's going to represent me.
My name is Mary Smith, representing Supervisor Alfred McDowell, District 5, only because he had other engagements already pending when we found out about the announcement. But we do want you to know that we're encouraged and that as soon as money comes down, roads will get surfaced.
So we do want to acknowledge other guests that are in the audience. I do see Ms. McKeeba. She does all the balloons and the decorations, I think, for everyone. So hello, Ms. McKeeba. I do see Byron Chamber of Commerce. Ms. Linda is here. Thank you for showing up. I do see Mr. Winding. He was one of the mayoral candidates for the city of Byron. Thank you for coming, Mr. Winding. I also do see Ms. Frazier. You were the parent of the year for Hinds County. Am I correct? Okay. So again, welcome. We also want to thank Ms. Erica for coordinating, facilitating us being able to utilize the facility here. So thank you, Ms. Erica. I also want to acknowledge Mr. Hobson. So if you all see us doing any cleaning, or if you need any cleaner junk removal, there's our person that you see us on all the videos with. We always clean up and working. That's Mr. James Hobson's junk removal. So now he can have his spotlight, you all. He got ADHD, ADD, and all of that. So there you go. So everybody what they're here.
All right, good evening, everybody. How y'all doing? All right, it is indeed a pleasure to be here in Terry, Mississippi this year. We hosted our event in Byron, Mississippi last year, so we came a little bit south. But before I go into what I'm going to go into, I want to acknowledge someone from our district. I want to talk about the Byron Chamber of Commerce. They've done an amazing job. Actually, they've done so good that I saw one of the city councilmen in Jackson saying that Jackson need their own chamber. And so nonetheless, I have a certificate. I'm sorry I don't have the frame. Y'all have been running. I'll get your frame later. But this is going to be to Miriam Lakiva Smith Harris for her outstanding tenure as president of the Byron Chamber of Commerce. And when it came time to be president, I'm leaving. I said, "No, you're not." And so she's doing great things in this own beginning.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And I have one more person that I want to recognize because I don't want to jump on me later. It's none other than the executive director, Ms. Linda Chess Collins. Has gotten about 34 new businesses signed up just here shortly. Ribbon cuts every other week. I can't make all, you just have too many ribbon cuts.
I know.
But thank you for all that you do.
You are so very welcome. Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you very much.
No problem. And so I think that's very important when we talk about having a strong chamber. And one thing I started talking about is Terry is so close to the city of Byron, and Terry doesn't have a chamber. And so we've adopted Terry. We have several businesses right here in Terry that are members of the chamber. Ms. Linda is so good that she has businesses out of state that belong to the Byron Chamber of Commerce. But she's really grown, and if you go through Byron, you'll see where we feature, I think, 15 businesses on the light poles. So definitely, we're proud of the things that are happening with the Byron Chamber of Commerce. All right, so as you know, I have the pleasure of representing South Jackson, Byron, Terry, Raymond, parts of Utica, parts of Raymond. And this is not only to talk about the things in Terry, it's to talk about our district as a whole. So I want to start in the city of Jackson. You know, we have a lot of challenges in Jackson, as you know of. One thing that I want to tell y'all is I looked at the crime statistics, and crime is half the rate of what it was last year in the city of Jackson. Chief Wade, born and bred right here in Terry, Mississippi, is doing an amazing job. So the problem, I'm not going to say the problem, but what I'm doing now is I'm working with JPD to look at crime statistics. And so I'm looking at each precinct to see where the crime is heaviest in, so we can figure out how our resources need to be deployed. Because if you have a high crime area, then it's going to always paint the narrative that the crime rate is still high. So we are working on that. I know we're talking about programming for our youth for the summertime. Our kids really need something to do, during the summertime. Second thing that we have going on in Jackson, we had a lot of measures that came up. I was part of Speaker Jason White's select committee to figure out what type of legislation we needed to put in place to benefit the city of Jackson. We're going to get into that in a little while, but one of them is the Safe Solicitation Act, i.e. the squatters bill. Another one is the bill that deals with squatters, and it defines the squatter in the process of what we need to do with squatters. But the one thing that I'm most proud of is we noticed an abundance of blighted properties in the city of Jackson. What we did is, on our committee, we tried to get to the root cause of it and figure out who owns all of these houses. And guess who owns them? The state of Mississippi. So the state of Mississippi, Secretary of State owns all of these blighted properties that are abandoned. And the problem is the city of Jackson and Hinds County has to pay to have these properties demolished. So it's not fair for the taxpayers to have to foot the bill for state-owned properties. So what we did is we have reestablished a fund within the Mississippi Secretary of State's office. I think we just transferred about $4 million into that fund, but it's going to allow Jackson to apply for grant money to come in and get those houses cleaned up or torn down to work on eliminating the blight. We also have tax incentives that we're giving developers that are going to be purchasing blighted properties, because that's how we take our neighborhoods back. We talk about the trash problem, the litter problem. We have Mr. James Hobson over here. He has done an amazing job around the city. He has not charged us one dime. He comes out and he cleans the community up because he's passionate and cares about the community. And when you see a clean community, it will change the way people feel. A lot of people say, oh, it's just a little trash. You know, it's much more than that. You want people to have pride and take pride in where they live. So those are the things, that we're working on in Jackson. Now, I hear this all the time. It's something that bothers me, and I'm going to always fight for Jackson. I realize this, if there were no Jackson, there would be no Byron, there would be no Terry, there would be no Mississippi, because we are the state capital. That's where business is handled. So instead of that, we need to say, what can we do to help Jackson become better? How can we support our elected officials there? We have a few new ones that are coming in. So I'm urging everybody to support them. Let's gather around them and figure out what it is, because what happens in Jackson, it's going to affect us. Byron, Terry, this whole area, the entire Hinds County. So we have to fight for Jackson. We cannot give up, on Jackson. One thing that happened this session that I'm very disappointed about, and also, y'all, we have Alderwoman Posey coming in, as well as Alderwoman Teresa Mack from Fire. Thank y'all so much for joining us. But one thing I was very disappointed about is the fact that when we passed our state budget, we go back to the special session and pass it, but when we passed it, we did not get any money for projects. So normally, we have what's called a Christmas tree bill. And the Christmas tree bill is money that we get for roads, one dime. That's for the entire state of Mississippi, not just for Hinds County. And so I'm saying that to everybody here because I don't want you to blame your local and county elected officials, because it's not their fault. The legislature failed the citizens of Mississippi by not funding projects this year. That was very disappointing. When we went into the special session, I talked to, I think, WJTV maybe, and they said, what do you hope to get out of this? I said, well, I'm hoping that we can get our projects that we're asking for. However, if we don't, one thing that we have to do is fully fund education again. And I'm happy to say that we fully funded our education formula for 2 years in a row. When you look at what's going on in Mississippi with education, we're not at the bottom anymore. We're rising, because we're putting the money where it needs to go, back into our public schools. Once again, public schools. And so that was one thing that I was happy that we were able to do. When we go back next year, guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna be fighting to make sure that we're able to get our projects. And when we go through the budget here shortly, I'm gonna show y'all why the projects didn't manifest, because there are a lot of conspiracy theories going around right now. But I'm gonna give y'all the facts as to why, we're looking, like we're looking. City of Terry, and we're experiencing that right now. Broadband, high-speed internet. Well, guess what? Broadband is on the way. We have secured about $14 million for this portion of Hinds County to start to build out a broadband expansion. Right now, we're still going through the process. It's a long, challenging process. We have to submit paperwork, and then the company, C-Spire, AT&T, they can challenge it and say, no, we want that area. And so once we go through all the legal legwork, we can start to build out. I'm thinking July is when this is supposed to be finalized, but we have the money. It's just please be patient while we, go through the red tape. But broadband expansion is something that we really need. A lot of people don't feel that broadband expansion is important, but it's so important because how do we get economic development without it? How do we bring companies here, industries here without any broadband? What about people that work from home? I sell real estate. One thing that people ask me when they're buying a home is it broadband there? How fast is the internet? And so that can determine if your community grows or not. We all talk about economic development, skyscrapers here, skyscrapers there, but we got to start with infrastructure development. Second thing that we're working on is our power grid with energy. Next Saturday, we're going to have a meeting over at Little Mount, over in Utica, about our power grid, because my constituents out in Utica, if the wind blows too hard, they lose power, and they're in the dark sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. And so we need to figure out what do we do to have a sustainable power grid, because if not, guess what's going to happen? We're not going to get the growth that we need. A lot of people in Byron want what? What do they want? What do people want? So one thing that y'all, our constituents want in Byron are what? A sit-down restaurant. With that is, I'm gonna go back a few years before we started really growing the Parkway. But the insurance was too high because there was no fire station. So your amazing board of aldermen in Byron built a fire station. And when they did that, guess what? That area blossomed. Well, we have another issue in Byron right now. It's Jackson Water. Sit-down restaurants are hesitant because of the issues that we have with the Jackson Water system in the past. So we have to figure out how we get over that hurdle. We're hoping that if we start asking now and showing the redundancy in the system, that they may consider coming. Jackson is under federal conservatorship until 2027. So after then, Ted Hennepin will be ultimately possibly leaving. So now we have to figure out, what are we going to do with the water system? Is it going to go back to the city? Is a private company going to come in? So we have to make sure that we make the right decision with the water system. And I know Mayor White has been very interested. Mayor White has been interested about, getting Byron on this own water system. And so these things are very important when we start talking about infrastructure development. It's about creating a strong and solid infrastructure so that we can grow the way we need to grow. So we are now going to ease on into the boring part of it, which is all of these great bills that we have. All right, so the first bill, House Bill 289, what this does is currently election commissioners run all at the same time, just as House representatives, just as supervisors. What this is going to do is we're creating staggered terms. Because what would happen if we have 5 new election commissioners come in at the same time? They're not going to know how to run an election. So we're staggering our election commissioners to make sure we don't have a complete overturn of the board. For people that say that can't happen, I want y'all to go home and look up Ocean Springs, Mississippi. They replaced the mayor and the entire board of aldermen in this last election. So it's possible. House Bill 291, which is the next one. Now, what happens with this is, currently, if you make it to a general election, and then let's just say we have 3 people, we have Republican, Democrat, and an independent. Well, if you go in a general election, the person that has the highest percentage or the most votes wins. And so if they have 33% of the vote, guess what? They're the ones that are gonna win. There are no runoffs in general elections. So what this is gonna do in the case where there are more than 2 people on the ballot in the general election, there's gonna now be a runoff in the general election. And so and when it first came about, I said, well, why are we doing that? And when we thought about it and looked at it, we said, when we have people that go through a primary election, sometimes we end up in, guess what, runoffs. We had to go through a primary, we had to go through a runoff, and then we go through a general, and somebody come in the general and beat you outright without getting the 50% plus 1. And so that was the reasoning for changing that. Unfortunately, if it's a tie, you still have to pull straws or flip a coin. I'm working on that though. House Senate Bill 2657. So this is going to allow the Board of Supervisors, so Supervisor Dixon, this will allow y'all to give the election commissioners an additional $35 for work on election day. A big $35. You can go get you a combo from McDonald's with that. All right, so House Bill 999, Business and Commerce. What this does is it defines what a modular home is. I know we see a lot of, I guess they call them tiny homes. People go and buy a storage building and want to put it in the city and say, it's going to be a home. So this defines the standards that those properties have to meet. Because we were seeing in one city, they say, oh, that's fine. And another city, oh, that's not okay. There was a lot of conflict. So this is going to set the standard as to what is going to be safe to, live in. And it's not about impeding a person's rights. It's about making sure this is safe. Safety is important. If they're not meeting a certain standard of safety and it catches on fire, that could be detrimental. Of the Corrections Committee, I'm going to go over this one more. Okay, so what this is, what this bill does is, and this bill was unanimous when it passed. And so currently, if there is an officer at a police department or any law enforcement agency, if they're terminated or they resign or, issue something for misconduct, what happens now is they can leave, they can go work at any other agency without it being reported. So what this does is it creates a database and all of this has to be reported. So when they want to go and work at Gulfport can see that they have something that happened up here, in Hinds County. And so that was very important to us. House Bill 623 is increasing our public defender's pay to $3,000. House Bill 624, it is going to increase the salaries for criminal investigators. Let me look. Look, I got 2 different books. What bill do y'all see? What's it? All right.
Yeah, this one we will work with.
All right, there we go. Let's flip. Okay, so there we go. Set attention, that's all. Look, like I'm a cheat sheet over here, so let me. 2242, I gotta get my notes so I can make sure I tell y'all the right thing. 2242. I left my notes in order right there based on yours. Need some more. No, that's fine. Okay. All right, so Senate Bill 2242. All right, this is another corrections bill that I really like. So what, everybody got 2242? Okay, so this is gonna authorize MDOC to establish an inmate work program within the Mississippi Department of Transportation. So what happens with this will allow certain criminal offenders that are incarcerated to actually go and work for MDOT while they're, working on getting out of prison. Now, what happens with this is money, 25% goes towards fines, child support, anything they may have. 50% goes into a savings account for them, and the rest of it goes, they get the rest of it to use for things in the canteen or where they want to buy things while, while they're incarcerated. The thing I like about this is they're not going to be making $2, $3 a day. They're going to be making a living wage, because in the past you would see when they work, they would get $2 a day, things of that sort. So this is giving them a skill set. So when they get out, guess what? They can roll over to a permanent basis to Mississippi Department of Transportation. The next one, Senate Bill 2357, this is very similar. Now, this is a pilot program. So we're going to put 100 people in this one. And we're partnering with Milwaukee Tools. These guys are going to be making anywhere from $17 to $18 an hour. They will be transported to Milwaukee Tools every day, taken back at the end of the day, as well as when they're out, they will leave, they will have money in a bank account, and they will have a job at Milwaukee Tools. So it's a pilot program that we're trying. I know it's going to work. It's going to work pretty good. And this one was actually, it was kind of hard to pass. We went back and forth with the Senate on it, because this one, once again, it requires a 15% administrative fee, and what the 15% fee goes directly to the correctional facility. And the reason we're doing this is because they have to pay for transportation and transporting and getting them around. And so it only makes sense that the state doesn't, have to absorb that burden, because we know how things are. Whenever something's taking money out of the state budget and somebody don't like it, they want to scrap it. So this way is not costing the state any money, but it's helping these young men, these young ladies have a career. When we talk about rehabilitation, this is what rehabilitation is about. And so education, House Bill 809. So what this does is when we have military families that are coming in, it basically allows them to choose the school district that their kids are going to be going to. So it makes it easier for them to get their kids to school without the hurdles of having to go through residency requirements and things of that sort. All right, Judiciary A. All right, so House Bill 599. So when we talk about Judiciary A, this is a committee that deals with, with laws more so on the civil level. Judiciary B, I serve on this criminal law. So when we look at Judiciary A, these are civil laws. So House Bill 599, what this says is that if it's a commercial entity and they are distributing child pornography, that they will be fined. So this means, like, if it's somebody on Facebook putting child porn on Facebook, and Facebook does not take it down, we're going to go out to Facebook and fine them for that. So it's another accountability measure, because we're seeing a lot of that come up. House Bill 1193. Now this one is, somebody was asking about bad legislation. This is the worst bill that came through this session. This is a bill we fought and contested for a long time. This is our anti-DEI bill. And it's a bad bill for several reasons. When this legislation was written, it basically says if a person files a complaint about DEI, that 3 times that this state entity or state school loses their funding. That says filed, it says filed a complaint. It doesn't say convicted, found guilty, filed a violation. And so we could possibly have institutions losing state funding due to this. We're seeing it all across the board now, where people are losing jobs, when we talk about this. We fought it, and I'm proud to say every single Democrat in the House and in the Senate voted against this measure. A lot of times we have 1 or 2 that say, well, no, but we stuck together on this because we understand equality. We understand what it was really implemented for, and the narrative has been spent. The thing is, once this takes full force, people are going to see that the ones that they were attempting to hurt with it are not the ones that are going to be hurt by it. Moving on down, House Bill 1197. This is called the Safe Solicitation Act. Y'all have probably heard a little bit about this one on the news. What the Safe Solicitation Act says is, It says that in order to solicit, and let me change that. In order to panhandle on the street, you have to have a permit. So if you want to go, stand on the corner to collect money with a sign, I saw a guy yesterday, he had one, please give me money, I want to go buy alcohol and drugs. So if he wants to stand up there with that sign, he's going to have to go downtown to City Hall and pay $25 to solicit on the corner. Another thing that happens with this is that it's going to be one person per corner. And you cannot solicit at nighttime, so when the sun goes down, you have to stop. But this is much so more than what people are saying it is. This is a safety measure. Because sometimes you go down the road and you're coming and you pull up and the light turns red, people come out of everywhere, impeding traffic. We hear pedestrians getting hit all the time for, things like this. So this is more so a safety issue, not trying to take away anyone's rights. So that goes into effect July 1.
Hey,
Yes, sir.
on this one here, you say they have to go downtown and get the permit.
Uh-huh.
See, the other day, someone's out holding a sign up in Byron to sell watermelons. Why would they not get the permit from the city of Byron instead of from the state? Sir,
What?
So you have to have a permit to do that, it's sort of not.
Yeah, what happened, when I said Jackson, I was just talking about people in Jackson, but if they're in Byron, they go to Byron. Yeah, so the municipality, yeah. But Elwood, I want you to tell everybody to come to Jackson, so that means we'll get all the money up to Jackson. But, so, you have to go to the municipality that you reside in and get a permit. $25, and it's only good for one day. So if you go out every day, one day. So if you want to go, and so if you want to go another day, you know what? Go another day.
So I guess the cost to have this with them at all times, just permit.
Yes. So if they're on the corner and police approach them, they have to show the permit that they have the permit. And